everyone, Chris McGarahan Junior here, coming to you from New York Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm sitting here with a young entrepreneur, Mr. Corriw Elieff. Corriw Elieff, sales executive. He's been a six-figure income earner since the age of 23, 25, almost 26 in a couple of weeks. He's also a trainer in development. He's trained 2,000 to 3,000 people, and he's actually built a massive sales organization all across Canada in a massive corporation. So first and foremost, Corrie, thank you for spending a few times. I know you had a good time in Las Vegas, and we talked about success, but for the viewers watching, what are some of the key success principles, the components that got you from where you were, where you started, which is pretty humble beginnings, to now this pretty luxurious lifestyle in your mid-20s?
Well, I think that there's definitely a lot of keys. You and I got a lot of similar training from the coaching programs that we are a part of. I think number one for me was mentorship. So that was number one by far, the biggest contributor to my success. When I was in college, I was about 18, 19 years old, first year of college, went straight out of high school. And that's exactly when my friend turned me on to some self-development books. And I decided I was going to drop out of school. Actually, he sold me on dropping out of school. He said,
what was the first book, if you don't mind me
asking? The book was Jack Canfield's Success Principles.
Okay.
And it was really funny because I was on the line. I was cooking with my friend at the keg. So the keg's like a steakhouse.
Okay.
You know, it's kind of like what are your steakhouses down here? There's
Fleming's is good.
It's not as high as Fleming's.
Okay.
It's maybe one level lower than that. But it's definitely a nice steakhouse, and I was a line cook, and my buddy was, and I was a really good cook. My dad owned a restaurant when I was a kid, so I was cooking at a really young age. But this guy he had a girlfriend, he was valedictorian, he was a rugby star, he was fit, he was a better cook he was faster, he kept his cool, he never lost it, and he still partied. I'm like, man, how do you manage all this? And he's like, oh, it's simple. Like, I've just started studying successful people. And it seemed really common sense. So he recommended the book, Success Principles by Jack Canfield. And I remember the first night I read it, I read like maybe 3-4 pages. And it was just like the introduction. And like it was basically saying, like, if you follow the principles in this book, you're going to have the life of your dreams. And I couldn't sleep that night. And that was it, because I knew it. That was like that first cognition.
How old were you?
18. I would have been 18 at that point.
18 years old. Okay.
Yeah.
So you get introduced to personal development, read this book about success for the first time, you're wired.
I didn't even read the whole book. I probably read like 40% of it, like most people when they pick up a development book.
Of course.
But I cherry-picked all the, because it's broken down in chapters of like principle by principle. But yeah, so I bought that book, I read it, and then I was 18 years old.
Now, since then, because we've had a lot of conversations, you've read
lots of books.
Lots of books, from cover to cover. You're very intellectual, very smart on a lot of subjects. So you got the books, you started learning about success. And with your story, you know, again, humble beginnings. You really had to grind, and you made a few mistakes on the way. But then you got a lot of mistakes on the way. You made a lot of mistakes, but then you got introduced to this opportunity that really changed your life. When that opportunity came with this specific corporation, which you're
right now, yeah.
You're the youngest
executive in the company.
In this massive corporation.
Yeah, they're a $4 billion company. You know, I think they employ like 10,000 people, so indirectly or directly, either contractors or direct employees. And I'm the youngest director,
like 7
youngest
years,
executive
right?
by like 7 years, and he's younger than the next executive by quite a few years.
Okay,
as well,
so what do you think are some of the key things that you did, whether it's action steps, thinking mechanisms? This the reason that you are where you are right now.
I think that when I said mentorship, right, it was really key that when I dropped out of college, there's two aspects to the mentorship. One was I was going to start finding people who were living a high life, and a high life in multiple areas, not just money, but they had the business, they had the health and the family, they had and the ethics is really key, because I got a mentor early on who business ethics were a little bit questionable. But the other aspect was not listening to people who didn't have it. That was both sides of that coin. And in the beginning, and anybody who knows me in the beginning, they can tell you I was really rough around the edges. You know, definitely came off arrogant, definitely came off you know, a bit harsh. But I just couldn't listen, because I was growing up in this small manufacturing city in Ontario on the east side. And you know, my friends all like started getting into drugs, and I got into it with them, and we just started getting into like not healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I'm like
the opposite of success.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just like living for like literally cheap thrills. And I'm like, I need to stop listening to these people because everyone has an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone gives you their opinion. No one has the results to back it up, but everyone gives you their opinion. So that was one. As far as getting into the corporation, getting this big deal, this big break, to kind of build more of my vision and be an entrepreneur within this company. Ledcore's been amazing. They kind of provided an umbrella for me to kind of build a culture and a training and a market approach and a team a lot around my values. Is again mentorship. I met this man, his name was Richard Hoy, Senior Vice President at Ledcore, and he was amazing. He coached me along the way, dealt with a lot of my, not just idiosyncrasies, but just a lot of the things where I was rough around the edges, he kind of helped polish.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really important. You need to find people, and in the beginning you might have to work really cheap. You might have to work for peanuts. In the beginning, when I started getting mentored, I was working for like nothing. I was working for such cheap money. But in my eyes, it's like I could go and lose money at school.
Yeah.
I'm going down $100 a day, down $200 a day. Or I could go get mentored. Maybe I'm only making $10 an hour, but I'm not going down, and I'm getting educated. And I'm getting work experience.
So, Corey, we talked about this a couple of times over the weekend, and you mentioned a very successful speaker, and he talked about young people going for success, and he says you don't have to become a millionaire by 22 years old. You don't need to invent the next Google, the next Facebook, and just change the planet Earth, right? Because it's hard. You have to start from kind of the bottom. Like you said, in the beginning, you're making a couple bucks, literally getting by. Now you're living this pretty lavish lifestyle, traveling the world, training all these people.
Yeah, and I think you know at the same time, like as much as most people, bird's eye looking in,
Mm-hmm.
they think it's awesome and lavish. But for when you have that mentality, that hustle, it's always what's next. You know, so you get there and it's like, hey, great, this is awesome. But it was more you were happy along the progression
Mm-hmm.
than once you get there. So
Exactly.
So sorry, I cut you off. Young people kind of trying to do everything in their 20s. They're trying to like just have it all.
Yeah.
I would say the biggest hindrance to why I don't think I'm further is because I tried to rush a lot, especially in the beginning.
Success.
You always try and rush it.
Of course.
You're always trying to rush it. You're always like, I want to be the next leader. I want to be a speaker. I want to make more money. This isn't good enough. And you want it all in 3 months. You know, it's that 3-month syndrome. That's why diets are 3 months. That's why workout plans are 3 months. That's why a lot of marketing companies advertise, go rich in 3 months. Get rich in 3 months. And I shot myself in the foot a lot like that.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to shortcut, trying to take the easy route, trying to look for the magic bullet. Everyone's looking for the magic bullet. What's the secret? And that's, I would say, is probably a downfall to especially millennials, man.
Don't try and hit the home run on your first swing, right?
Yeah, I swing big, but like if you get a base hit, just take it.
Just take it.
Take it and play it and keep moving.
So, Corey, because you train a lot of young people,
Yeah.
and because of you change a lot of young people's lives, a lot of young men and women. You take them
I like
from.
to hope so. Yeah, I've definitely been told I have. Yeah.
I've spoken to a number of them, and you do. For young people that may be watching, or even people that are a few generations older than us, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, let's say they're not where they want to be, and they just got introduced to success. They just read their first book on dream big, have be, do whatever you want. Maybe they even have a mentor. What's their next step? Do they just focus on, okay, let me master my thinking? Do they get to put their shoe on and get to work? What do you believe is their next step? They're in the first stage of success and getting their thinking down, but now what?
If you just got into it, just from my experience of really when I saw my life take off, so Ledcore really wasn't. Ledcore is after I had already put in the grind.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had already put in the hustle and the sweat. So it was my first big break after grinding it out and busting my ass. And it might sound a little bit strange, but get away from your home. Get away from, at least for a while.
Mm-hmm.
At least for a while, because your family, number one, doesn't want you to feel pain. And when you're going after success, you have to go through pain. And it's going to be tough, and there's going to be rejection, there's going to be failure, there's going to be risk you're going to have to take for your ego, for your reputation, and your family will want to tell you, you know, don't, or like, oh, it's okay, you know, why don't you just come home, or why don't you, you know, why don't you just get a job here, it'll, you know, it'll be more stable.
Yeah.
So one, your family doesn't want you to feel pain, so they'll do, and they love you, but your family is not, even if your parents are uber successful, I've seen it again and again and again, they try and protect you.
Of course.
Right?
Of
Because
course.
it's in their programming. So one, your family's not going to really help you in that sense. You need to have that relationship there for sure, but you need to get out on your own. Two,
build that independence.
To your friends, whoever you've been hanging around with, they're not, you can't bring them with you. You can help them and introduce them to the content. You can't, you know, you can't make a horse drink or whatever. You can lead it to water, shove salt in its mouth maybe, but you can't make the horse drink.
Yeah.
You can introduce it to your friends, but the best thing you can do is keep those relationships alive, but go and surround yourself with people who are going where you want to go. So right now, I'm living in Vancouver. I grew up in Ontario, but my first gig that I took, after I got introduced to all this content, it wasn't about till 2 years later till I finally made a decision that my life's not going anywhere because I'm stuck. I'm doing all the wrong things with these friends. I'm still living at home. I'm being babied.
Yeah.
Right? So I hopped on an airplane, flew to Vancouver, and started up this startup sales company. I ended up living in a shop warehouse for 8 months.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, like you're being taken advantage of. And I was. You're being overworked. This isn't healthy.
Yeah.
You need balance.
Abused.
You need balance. Because I was living in a warehouse, sleeping on an air mattress, working every single day. But it got me away from my friends. And what your friends do is they bring up your old thinking patterns. It got me away from my family. And I called them, and every time I called them, I had cool stories now. It wasn't like bickering.
Yeah.
It was like it did good things for my relationship. So, and that got me surrounded by people who were studying success. So you need to, it's like immersion. You know, did you guys take Spanish down here? Did you take Spanish?
Of course,
Do you speak Spanish?
Yeah.
Well, your wife speaks Spanish, doesn't she?
Pequeño.
Okay. I took French class for like 8 years, because in Canada you take French from like grade 1 till like grade 9. And I can't speak a word of French, because it's an hour a day. And you can't treat success like French class in school. You go to a French immersion school, you're learning French.
Yeah.
Period. Success is the same thing. It's a language, it's words, it's people you hang out with. You gotta get away, at least for a while. Take 6 months and go work with people who are thinking the way you want to think. I'd say that is, and I'm just seeing that now in hindsight, because I spent the first 2 years reading these books, trying to tell my friends, like, oh, you guys gotta study this.
Yeah.
You know, trying to be preachy, and they laughed at me. You know.
And eventually you went to where the horses were already drinking.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Corey, my man, thank you so much for spending time with us. I know you got to catch a flight. Viewers watching, to kind of reiterate on what Corey said. 1, introduce yourself to success if you haven't already. Open that book, The Magic of Thinking Big, The Laws of Success in 16 Lessons, some of the books that Corey mentioned, and just plant success in your mind, even if it's 3 or 4 pages. Get the ball rolling. Then, get a mentor. Start learning hands-on from someone who can teach you how to be better. Also, you got to get out of your comfort zone.
Big time.
Like Corey did the biggest time move he could make. He left his hometown, his city, his state, and went to almost the opposite side of the country and started over. Not saying you have to do that right now. Get out of your comfort zone. Put yourself around different people. And last but not least, immerse yourself in success. Don't do the 1 hour a day French lesson. That's not going to withhold
Immersion
over
is key.
years.
Immersion
is key. Immerse yourself with success, and ultimately, you will be successful. So, with that being said, my name is McGarahan Junior. Thank you for watching, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Chris.